Good day, everyone. My name is Grace Lorente Victorio, and I am tasked to report on the Collective Bargaining Agreement or Collective Negotiation Agreement. Collective Negotiation Agreement, or CNA, is a contract negotiated between an accredited employees organization as the negotiating unit and the employer or management on the terms and conditions of employment and its improvements that are not fixed by law. Collective bargaining is one of the most important and useful institutions developed since the end of the 19th century. As a powerful instrument of dialogue between workers and employers' organizations, collective bargaining or negotiation contributes to the establishment of just and equitable working conditions and other benefits, thereby contributing to the social and industrial peace. Collective bargaining is the process in which working people through their unions negotiate contracts with their employers to determine their terms of employment, including pay, benefits, hours, leave, job health and safety policies, ways to balance work and family, and more. Collective bargaining is a way to solve workplace problems. In simple words, collective bargaining is a process, a technique, or device to protect the interest of employers and employees to determine the employment conditions, to fix the wage and salary, and achieve the objectives of organization. It is not a decree from outside parties. It represents voluntary conciliation and voluntary arbitration and is never a compulsory adjudication. So there are features of collective bargaining. The first one is group and collective action. It is a collective process in two ways. First, the workers collectively bargain for their common interests and benefits. Secondly, the workers and management jointly arrive at an amicable solution through negotiations. The second one is strength. It is an industrial democracy at work. Across the table, both parties bargain from a position of equal strength. In a collective bargaining, the bargaining strength of both parties is equal. The third one is that collective bargaining is a continuous process. It establishes regular and stable relationship between parties involved. It involves not only the negotiation of the contract, but also the fee administration or application of the contract as well. It means that bargaining is a day-to-day process. The fourth one is collective bargaining is flexible. It is flexible and the parties have to adopt a flexible attitude throughout the process of bargaining, since no party can afford to be rigid and inflexible. The special feature of collective bargaining is that both the parties concerned start negotiations with completely divergent views, but finally reach a middle point acceptable to both. It is, therefore, not a one-way street but a give-and-take process. Collective bargaining is a voluntary process on the part of both management and workers. Both the parties come to the bargaining table in order to have a meaningful dialogue on various troubling issues. The implementation of the agreement reached is also a voluntary process. The sixth one is that collective bargaining is dynamic. Collective bargaining is a relatively new concept and is growing, expanding, and changing. The way agreements are arrived at the way they are implemented, the mental makeup of the parties to keep on changing. In the past, the concept is used to be emotional, turbulent, and sentimental, but now it is scientific, factual, and systematic. Its coverage and style have changed. Seventh one is that power relationship. Collective bargaining involves a power relationship. Worker wants to gain the maximum from the management, and the management wants to extract the maximum from workers by paying as little as possible. To reach a solution, both have to retreat from their positions and accept less than what is asked for and give more than what is on offer. By doing so, management wants to retain its control on workers and workplace matters, and unions attempt to strengthen, thus hold over workers without any serious dilution of their powers. Another feature of collective bargaining is it is bipartite process. The management and the workers negotiate the issues directly face to face across the table. There is no third party intervention. Last feature of collective bargaining is that it is a two-party process. It is a mutual give and take rather than take it or leave it method of arriving at the settlement of a dispute. As two parties are involved in it, it can succeed only when both labor and management want it to succeed. Collective bargaining have these main objectives. The first one is that to maintain cordial relations between the management and the workers, and then to settle disputes or conflicts relating to wages and working conditions. And another one is that to protect the interest of the workers through collective action and to prevent unilateral action on the part of the employers. The fourth one is to ensure the participation of trade and union in industry, then to resolve the differences between workers and management through voluntary negotiations and arrive at a consensus. The sixth one is that to avoid the need for government intervention as it is voluntary process. So these are the following steps that are involved in collective bargaining process. The first one is the identification of the problem. The nature of the problem influences the whole process of collective bargaining. As such, it is important for both the parties to be clear about the problem before entering into negotiations. The nature of the problem influences the selection of representatives, their number, their period of negotiations, and period of agreement that is reached ultimately. The second step is preparation for negotiation. Negotiations may commence at the instance of either party labor or management. Both employers and employees devote a great deal of time to the preparations for negotiation. The necessary data has to be collected on a number of issues. The personnel department sets the objectives which are proposed to be achieved through negotiation and which have to be necessarily related to anticipate trade unions' demands. The third one is negotiation procedure. In the first stage, representatives for the negotiations are to be selected. Such persons should be selected who can carry out negotiations with patience, composure, and who can present their views effectively. After selection, they should be educated about the problems and its pros and cons. Their powers and authority during negotiations should be decided. Other preparations include fixing up the time for negotiations, period of negotiations, and etc. The fourth one is the implementation of the contract. According to Professor Williamson and Harris, if anything is more important to industrial relations than the contract itself, it is the administration of the contract. The progress in collective bargaining is not measured by the mere signing of an agreement. Rather, it is measured by the fundamental human relationships agreement. The negotiation of the contract may have suspense drama of a sort which draws public attention. This is the spectacular side of collective bargaining. The unspectacular and more lasting and important side in the day in and day out process which keeps labor and management from this public despite or dispute stage. The agreement can be made on a temporary basis. In such case, before the expiry of agreement, both parties consult each other and can terminate or renew the agreement depending upon the circumstances. This may again lead to negotiations. As such, collective bargaining is not a temporary accommodation, but it is a continuous process. And that would be all. Thank you so much for listening. This is again Grace Laurenti Victoria from Ormoc City Division.